All right, everyone, grab your seats, settle in. Today, we're not just having a lecture, we're stepping ringside for a constitutional showdown. And in the center of the ring, the preamble to the Indian Constitution. It's an elegant, poetic piece of text, but believe me, it has been fiercely contested. This isn't just about history. This is about understanding the very soul of the law. Let's get into it.
We, the people of India. Just let those words sink in for a moment. They're the words that launch an entire nation. They're incredibly powerful, they're inspiring, but here's the billion-dollar question that the best legal minds in the country wrestled with for decades. Are they just pretty words on a page, or do they have real legal teeth? That question is at the heart of everything we're talking about today.
Okay, here's our game plan. First, we'll break down the preamble's actual promise. Then, we'll dig into the one foundational question that nearly caused a constitutional crisis. After that, it's the main event, the KSLU showdown, which led to the game-changing basic structure doctrine. And we'll wrap it all up with a final brief, everything you need to absolutely nail this topic on your exams.
So, before we can get into the legal fireworks, you have to understand what everyone was fighting over. The preamble isn't just an introduction, it's a declaration. It's India's mission statement. It lays out the core values and the ultimate goals of the entire Constitution. Okay, pens out. This is a must-know mnemonic for your notes. SSDDR. It stands for Sovereign, Socialist, Secular, Democratic, and Republic. These 5 words are the fundamental pillars that define the Indian state. Everything else is built on top of this foundation.
And here is a classic exam question, so listen up. Those first 2 S's, socialist and secular, they weren't actually in the original preamble from 1950. Nope, they were added much later, in 1976, by the 42nd Amendment, during a pretty intense time in Indian politics. Knowing this little fact shows an examiner you get that the Constitution isn't a static document. It's a living thing that evolves.
All right, so we know what the preamble says, but the real fight, the one that went all the way to the Supreme Court, was about what it does. For years, the legal world was completely divided. Is this thing just a poetic welcome mat to the Constitution? Or is it a structural part of the building itself? Is it just a guide, or is it binding law?
And it all boils down to this one simple-sounding question. Is the preamble legally part of the Constitution? Simple to ask, but the answer has massive consequences. Because think about it. If the answer is no, then Parliament's power to change the Constitution is almost unlimited. But if the answer is yes, well then the preamble becomes a safeguard, a limit on that power. The stakes couldn't have been higher.
And you can see the legal whiplash right on this slide. In 1960, in the Berubari Union case, the Supreme Court said, no. The preamble is useful, it's a key to open the minds of the makers, but it is not legally part of the Constitution. Case closed, you think. But you'd be wrong. Just 13 years later, in the case of Ananda Bharati case, the court does a complete 180-degree turn. The verdict this time? A resounding yes. The preamble is part of the Constitution. This wasn't a small change, it was an earthquake in Indian law. This brings us to the main event, Keshavananda Bharati versus the state of Kerala. And I need to be crystal clear here. This is not just a case. It is arguably the single most important constitutional case in India's history. What happened here redefined the balance of power in the country forever.
You know, the funny thing is, it didn't start as a grand debate about the preamble. It actually began with a religious leader in Kerala challenging some land reform laws. But the case quickly escalated into a much bigger question. Does Parliament have unlimited power to amend the Constitution? Could they just wake up one day and amend away our fundamental rights? The issue was so massive they assembled a 13-judge bench, the largest in India's history, and their verdict finally settled the preamble debate once and for all.
But the court didn't stop there, and this is where things get really fascinating. From the ashes of this legal battle, the court forged a brand new and powerful idea, a concept that changed modern constitutional law around the world, the basic structure doctrine. This was their answer to the question of Parliament's ultimate power.
So, what is this basic structure doctrine? It's actually a brilliant piece of legal reasoning. It says, yes, Parliament, you have the power to amend the Constitution, but, and this is a gigantic but, you cannot use that power to destroy its core identity. You cannot alter its basic structure. Things like democracy, rule of law, secularism, and where does the court look for guidance on what's basic? You guessed it, the preamble.
And this new doctrine was tested almost immediately. In the 1980 Minerva Mills case, Parliament tried to make a power grab. They passed amendments essentially saying our power to amend is absolute
and no court can ever question it. The Supreme Court took one look at that, invoked the basic structure doctrine, and struck those amendments down. The message was unmistakable. Nobody is above the Constitution, not even Parliament.
Okay, we've gone through the history, the theory, all the drama. Now let's shift gears and get tactical. Think of this as your final exam prep. We are going to distill everything down into the absolute must-know takeaways. Here's your strategy. 1. If you want to prove the preamble is part of the Constitution, you must cite Keshavananda Bharti. That's your knockout punch. 2. To show you really know your stuff, mention the Beruberi case to explain how the law evolved. 3. Don't forget the 42nd Amendment added socialist and secular. It's a favorite for multiple choice questions. And 4. A new mnemonic for you, JELF. It stands for the preamble's 4 great objectives: justice, equality, liberty, and fraternity.
Look at this slide. This is your ultimate revision cheat sheet. Keshavananda and Minerva Mills are 5-star cases, absolutely critical. Keshavananda gives you 2 key principles. The preamble is part of the Constitution, and it gives us the basic structure doctrine. Minerva Mills confirms that doctrine has real teeth. Beruberi is your 4-star supporting actor. It's the before picture that makes the after so powerful. Memorize this table.
So I'll leave you with one final thought to wrestle with. This whole basic structure idea, you won't actually find those words written anywhere in the Constitution. It's a doctrine created by judges to protect the Constitution's soul. So that leads to this huge ongoing question. In the perpetual tug-of-war between Parliament, which represents the people's will, and the judiciary, which protects the Constitution, who ultimately gets the final say on what is truly basic to India's identity? That's a question that India is still answering today. Class dismissed.